Hello and welcome to The Healthy Womb. My name is Rachel and this is WombTube. Today I'm talking about period pain and how posture can help. So just to give you an idea of how posture can be so helpful with dealing with your period pain. Every single client of mine has a problem where her womb, this is my lovely model here, is bent either too far forwards or too far back. And unfortunately when this happens, adhesions can occur, and then when you're due for your bleed, she has to do all this moving in order to get the flow out. So as you can imagine, that's where a lot of cramps come from, but also where the womb is misaligned. If she's pressing on the spine or the bowel or the bladder, you can get pain there as well. So one of the things that would really help every single woman out there is to make sure it doesn't happen in the first place and keep her pelvis in really good alignment throughout the day. And unfortunately, sitting all day doesn't help with that. So today I'm joined by Adrian Farrell from Adrian Farrell Alexander Technique. Adrian is an Alexander Technique teacher based in central London. His website is alexander-technique.london. He's an Alexander Technique teacher and he's also a cranial sacral therapist. So hello Adrian and welcome.
Hello, thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me today.
Pleasure.
So I was just wondering, for starters, if you could explain to us what Alexander Technique is.
Sure. Now, there's a kind of popular conception of it of me being the posture police. I kind of want to dispel that just a little bit. Posture is certainly an element of the way we use ourselves. So instead of treating it as a physical problem, it's really a psychophysical problem we have. We work with our mind and our body as an integrated whole. And the way we use our body is basically the way the mind directs it. So a lot of time people, they go around life with their internal dial all the way up to 10. They do all their simple everyday activities like that. And it's my job in a way just to turn down the dial a little bit so people do things a little more efficiently with a little more ease. And so the posture thing that people normally associate it with, you don't really do good posture, you only do bad posture. We've seen millions of years of evolution given us perfectly good postural reflexes. So my assumption is everyone already has a fine posture, it's just buried a little bit.
That's a nice way to put it, actually.
If I can just take away all the layers of rubbish that builds out a lifetime of stress and habits that we build up, take those away, like it's a big unlearning, a big forgetting. Mm-hmm. Wherever you end up is fine. And your posture will improve through that process, but we're not kind of going for the posture. That's kind of a byproduct of just using yourself in a more easy kind of way.
Excellent. So you're more listening to your body and actually realising what it's supposed to be doing rather than...
It's allowing it to do its own thing in the way it was, I say the word loosely, designed to do. But we have very different lifestyles now to what we did, during earlier parts of evolution. So, just the fact that we're sat in front of a computer here right now, that's a big draw. You're staring at a screen, and it's very common for people to stare at a screen. It's like,
whole body goes
people do it. So you literally follow your attention. And it's not a gravity issue, it's not a poor furniture issue. It's the way you've used your mind, and you've kind of concentrated, narrowed your attention into the screen, kind of forgotten that you're the one looking at the screen, and lo and behold, I've stuck my head up. And there's no reason to do that. It's an inanimate object. I could just sort of stay back here and be neutral. That's why it's just as much a mind game. Sit with mobile phones, sit with all sorts.
And when you're walking in the street, if you spot something there, your whole body tends to go
exactly.
That way.
Yeah, the eyes go, the head goes, the body goes. Yeah.
Okay, that's a really good way of describing it. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, so can you tell me your Alexander Technique story? So what problem you had and how it helped you?
Yeah, so I used to work in the city, in the Square Mile, in the financial district, connecting trade floor stock exchanges for investment banks and stockbrokers. Mm-hmm. It was all very, I was going to say stressful. Water ducks back, I actually quite enjoyed it, but I was getting back pain and RSI from being, in IT, hunched over a computer all day long. And, I took the usual routes. I tried osteopaths and chiropractors, etc., etc. Mm-hmm. And I'd get sort of a bit of relief for a few days, and of course the problems always came back. And then random meeting at a party, someone said, "Have you heard of the Alexander Technique?" Well, no, and I looked it up, and something suddenly clicked for me that I was hurting myself. So no amount of going to see an osteopath, for example, was going to change the fact that my behaviour, the way I used myself, was causing, I was self-harming at the end of the day.
It's the root cause, isn't it?
And that just clicks with me, that idea that what I was doing was causing harm. And maybe it's just my personality. I like the idea of taking self-responsibility. I like the idea of being the boss of myself. So, I didn't like being a passive patient. So I went and tried some lessons. It worked, and I just kind of fell in love with it until sort of a big finger came out the sky and said, "You, this is what you do with your life." And I went, "Okay, that's what I do." So I went and did a 3-year training, and here I am.
Excellent. Oh, I'm so glad you're here with us. So moving on then, period pain. The biggest bane of my life is women that are seated all day long. Have you got some tips for us?
Yes. It's a shame I don't have a physical model for you. Hopefully we'll put something on screen so I can show a pelvis. But I like to reframe sitting down as standing up on your bottom.
Ooh, okay.
So there's this concept when people sit down, they sit down. Not only are they, you go, your mind is it's down, it's relaxed. It's not really relaxed, it's collapsed, And one of the things that happens is people roll their pelvis backwards. Mm-hmm. Sometimes the reason that is the furniture itself encourages that, which isn't good, but it's under the assumption that you have a nice flat surface. If you feel the bony part on the underside of your bottom, we call those the sit bones. Yeah. And if you reframe that, if you think of those as being your new feet, but remain standing up, with your bottom as the base, and then you're still stood up. Because actually, sit bones and the hip joints are both below where the spine joins the pelvis. So if they're below that point, it doesn't matter which is taking the weight bearing. That relationship between the spine and the pelvis is totally unchanged. So there's no reason, if you change, going from hips down to feet or through your sit bones, that the rest of the body should do that. And I tilted my pelvis backwards there. Yeah. You can't see it on camera, but you kind of get the idea because my whole body's collapsed forward as well.
You can see the big difference.
If you stop that rolling back of the pelvis onto the coccyx,
I can
just say stood up. And it does mean, in a way, it's just a dynamic activity as standing up is. It's not relaxing as such, it is for the legs. But you're still poised, you're still dynamic, you're still light and bright and out there in the world. It's not this dead kind of, which it might be for some people at work, but I'd challenge you to actually, come up and out and be in your environment and be stood on your bottom in a lively way instead of a collapsed way. And as you were mentioning earlier, I know we were talking just before the video, as soon as the pelvis goes back like that, you slump down and everything gets compressed.
It does.
Everything gets compressed. And that's the one thing, obviously, you're looking to help to relieve and to recreate that space. So if you're stood up, you've got the length, everything has its space. You're not crunching in on it. Hopefully that will help with the sort of issues maybe some of your watchers are dealing with.
Yes, and also any digestive issues down there as well.
And breathing. It's all related. If you collapse this whole area, the whole, your breath is affected, your intestines, and then below that for women, it all compacts. And so we just want to keep that length, give it some space.
Okay. And then when people are setting up their desks, do you recommend they're in that position when they first set up their desk, so it's at the right place there and then, rather than when we go to desk setups at work, sometimes you can be already collapsed?
Yeah, you've really got to reframe what you think sitting is and what you're doing at work. And I can probably sit like this for quite a long time because I'm used to it. I think the reality is people have to expect to get about and move a little more. I do encourage people to get the tees in for their workmates, gets them up away from the chair. If you use the telephone a lot, get a hands-free kit and just pace around your desk as you talk. It's quite nice.
That's a good idea, actually. Yeah.
So although I do think it's great, you can show how to sit really well, and I think basically any flat surface will do. I don't believe in ergonomic furniture at all. I've written a blog about that. The shocking truth about ergonomic chairs. Almost complete waste of money in my view. Any flat surface. I am actually currently sat on a piano stool. That's my computer kind of chair here. It's a flat surface. Anything you can stand on, you can sit on. A lot of office furniture tends to maybe encourage you to tilt backwards. As long as it doesn't do that, the chair's good enough. And if you are tired, there's nothing wrong with having a little slunch back for a couple of minutes. It's not going to hurt just for a few moments. Probably better just to get up and walk around. I don't want to be overly idealised that the next 8 hours you will be perfect. I mean, that's not human.
Okay, so we've got stand on your sit bones.
Yep.
And we've got get up and walk around where you can. Have you got any other tips in there?
Yeah, I mean, if you're at work and you use the computer, that's just the points I was making earlier about the nature of our awareness, that you follow your line of attention into the screen, and that's going to encourage often people to bend in the middle as well. It's to just work on your spatial awareness. I often use actors as an example because I can't think of better examples sometimes. Then, if you've ever been to the theatre and you've seen a good actor, they really get that sense of them owning the stage.
Yeah.
I mean, they sort of feel the presence. I kind of want to find a pragmatic way there. You don't have to sort of feel like you're an actor or anything, but we do perform everyday tasks. And if you can get a sense, especially of the space above and behind you, and centre yourself in the space, so you can release, because you go where your attention is, if you can just release into your environment and not get drawn into your gizmos and made smaller, just keep yourself out. So sometimes just having a soft focus with the eyes, just being a little aware of the whole screen instead of the narrow point of the one word you're typing or something. So it's just sort of working on your awareness of the space around you, so you're not just narrowed in.
Okay.
That was a long, quick tip.
No, it was good. And it also makes a lot of sense when people say, being present and being centered and really being aware of what's around you more often, because often we are sort of focused in on the tiny little task that's in front of us and not aware of what's actually going around us in the present.
Well,
so
absolutely. I mean, we're taught
that.
almost from birth that concentration is a good thing, but the problem with that, concentration is by definition, is the narrowing of your attention. So if you're narrowing your attention, that means there's an awful lot of stuff you're no longer aware of. Which means you're no longer aware of how the thing that you're trying to get done is getting done. And that thing you might be trying to get done is type some words on the computer screen, but you don't know how that's happening because you're the one doing it, but you put all your attention on the keyboard on the screen and you're there hunched up and because you're no longer paying attention to yourself. So it's really about widening your awareness and being allowed yourself to do sort of two things at once: look after yourself and do your task at the computer.
Brilliant. I'll tell you, whilst we've been talking, I've actually been moving my seat bones backwards and forwards, and I can see a big difference.
Yeah.
This is before, and I can feel, you can't see, but my pelvis is sort of collapsed under like that, and then being aware of where my seat bones are, my whole back feels a lot more in alignment.
Yeah, because effectively you're still stood up as you would be if you were stood up. You just change the weight bearing onto your seat bones.
I like it. I feel free.
It really is that simple. It's not a clever thing. It's just keep it simple.
Yeah, and it also takes away the need for having that D-shaped cushion behind you or the coccyx cushion underneath you to force your spine into that position anyway. So
it's kind of funny. Since backrests have existed, it's the assumption you have to use them. But of course, there was a long time when people just sat on benches, and the option wasn't there, so no one thought they had to lean back and collapse. People think they're relaxing, but they're not. They're collapsing.
Yeah, I completely see it. I can feel the difference already. So that's been a really great session for me. Thank you. Okay, so just to wrap up, we've got the making sure you're sat on your seat bones. There will be a picture somewhere in this presentation. I'll put it tell you where in the description. Adrian, you've also written blog posts for the Huffington Post.
Yes.
You've got your website. I'll say it again. It's alexander-technique.london. How else can people find you?
I'm also on Twitter, which is at Adrian Farrell 18.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much it, really.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And I have to say, your website has loads of really good advice, and both the blog on your website and Huffington Post has loads of really good information on there. So I highly recommend people do go across and have a look. Adrian, thank you so much for your time. It's greatly appreciated. I know I'm going to be sitting differently now. I'm really aware of myself. Thank you very much.
Thank
Bye.
you.